Please just keep driving.
Okay, so long overdue, but this will be the second episode of
I'm just trying not to die right now.
The
Cold-Blooded Experience.
Our TikisGeckos official podcast.
You guys don't know what the heck we just went through. Almost died like 16 times just trying to catch one exit.
Did you die though?
I didn't die, but I'm like freaked out. But we're just coming back from where are we coming back from?
Tom Crutchfield's and Snakes at Sunset. So Tom Crutchfield is a OG iguana and reptile breeder here in South Florida, and we just went over there to basically for no reason. And then we just passed by Snakes at Sunset because we haven't been there in a while, and it's a cool little reptile shop in Miami, one of the original stores. So for sure, if you're in the area, check them out. Not Tom, because he works out of his house, but like Snakes at Sunset.
Yeah, but Tom makes some of the craziest iguanas more known to mankind.
Mm-hmm.
And like Dave was saying, he is an OG. He's actually one of like the people who started the reptile hobby, the reptile industry.
Yeah, so if you have a Mount Rushmore of reptile people, Tom Crutchfield is 100% on that mountain. No questions asked.
A lot of the animals that we have now in the States is because of Tom Crutchfield, because of people like him, who in the early days really started bringing in all these animals too.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about.
Guys, I like driving fast.
I don't like driving fast. Especially when it's him driving. He can't drive for...
I can drive.
Sure,
yeah.
Sure.
So, we're also getting ready for the biggest reptile show in the world. Like, you have to...
Definitely in Florida. Probably the second biggest.
Yeah, it's
in the United States.
The Daytona
NARBE.
It's just NRB. No. National Reptile Breeders Expo.
Yeah,
NRBE.
NRBE.
NARBC is
Tinley Park. Yeah, NARBE. such as, and it's my favorite show to work. I mean, we haven't done Tinley yet. We were supposed to, but
COVID hit.
Something called the global pandemic.
I'm not gonna let you do that.
Kind of closed that show. We were actually about to fly out. Yeah. We were like a couple hours away from our flight, and
literally the day before our flight got canceled, so we didn't do it. But NRBE, bro, I hope it's like, because last year it wasn't that good.
North.
Oh, true. You gotta speed. Oh shit, we got.
Oh my god.
We're good.
Jesus. Hope your car insurance doesn't see this.
You can't tell me I gotta turn last minute, man.
I just saw a sign that said we gotta go this way. I'm like, fuck, we gotta go that way.
Goddamn.
Okay. So if we make it to Daytona, it's excited to see how it's gonna be, especially with all these rules and regulations on capacity, masks, everything. It's gonna be a little weird. We have done one show since the pandemic, so it was a Repticon, and they had 2-hour blocks. Basically, there's 3 2-hour blocks in a day, and there's only a certain amount of people that are allowed to come in those 2-hour blocks, and then after the 2-hour block's over, everybody gets kicked out. They clean everything down, and then customers.
Us.
Yeah, we
have to clean our booth and stuff, and we all have to wear our masks the whole show. And there's a limited amount of people that could go in, like he said.
Yeah, and tickets were pre-sold. You couldn't even buy them at the door unless you had the app.
Cashless. At least for like the Repticon.
You have to wear your mask 24/7. So it was different. It's kind of weird, something we're not used to.
It's weird because like, how I've heard some people speak about this already, but like the bottom part of your face, like it's hard to recognize people when you're not looking at the bottom part of your face. So there's like a lot of like customers that like we've known for a long time that would show up, and it takes you a second to register it's them because like you can't see their face and you can't see like facial expressions.
Yeah, that's one thing that was weird for me is like you couldn't see emotions, like laughing,
like
smiling.
Our jokes didn't hit the.
Yeah, they didn't. Either they were really bad jokes and really bad timing, or they were laughing and smiling, but you just can't see. So it was kind of weird. And then sometimes I think a few people caught me staring, but like into nothing, and maybe thought I had an attitude or something, but they just couldn't tell. I'm like laughing, I'm like smiling through my mask. Actually, it's funny. We actually went on a mini vacation to the amusement parks as good Floridians during COVID. You go to somewhere where there's a ton of people.
Fun fact, it was my first time ever going on roller coasters. We went to Universal and Islands of Adventure. It's my first time going on roller coasters. Awesome, amazing time. And my first time going to Disney in like 17 years. Yeah, what are you going to say?
No, I was just going to say it's funny because you know how sometimes you accidentally look at somebody and they look at you back and you just smile, you know, be polite.
But you
have your mask on, so nobody's like, is this person just like grilling me or are they smiling? And for every time we would take photos, Disney required at all times for you to wear the mask and Islands of Adventure, so you'd be smiling for the camera, but you'd be like, oh crap, I got a mask on. So why even smile?
Yeah, this sucks, man. Like, I'm so over. Like, I just wanted COVID to fucking die off already. Damn, it's so annoying.
Yeah, I mean, we all probably can't wait till it gets back to normal. Yeah. I'm excited. Hopefully the show brings out a lot of people. I mean, because everyone's been locked up in their house. And
we have only done one reptile show since this pandemic, and we had a pretty good turnout. There isn't as many people at the show, but a lot more, or at least it felt like a lot more people were serious and actually wanted to buy.
Yeah. So I think that's because like if you're gonna make the effort to do all that to risk getting
go to a reptile
COVID,
show,
you're gonna go to buy something.
Yeah, that's what I think so too. So hopefully Daytona's good, and I feel like a lot of people have been in their house through quarantine, and they're
just itching to get out to see some reptiles if that's what you like.
Or they just want to go and do something. So maybe it will, we will get a good amount of people. But
have you heard anything if there's new rules? I know we got to wear a mask.
Yeah. So,
but I don't know what else there is.
They're gonna limit capacity, but since it's like Central Florida, it's not as bad as South Florida, so the rules aren't as crazy. But I know. When I was reading the guidelines or whatever, they were saying that we all have to wear a mask at all times. I think they're gonna take the temperature reading of the people coming through the doors, and we're gonna. There's the building capacity is they're not gonna allow it to be at 100%. It's gonna have to be like
I mean, it's a very big building, thankfully, so there probably will be a good amount of people that can go in.
But I already know of a lot of vendors that are not gonna do the show because of obviously COVID, which
some people are just more
it's not gonna
at
be
risk.
The same,
like if we would catch it, we'd probably most likely be fine because we are young and stuff. But some people might have pre-existing conditions that. Honestly, like we know a couple people, like friends of ours who are breeders who are like much older are not gonna do the show for that reason. They're like, why risk it? They're older, so it's like 70s, 90s, like Tom. That's not worth that's not worth the risk. For them.
Exactly. For them, of course. It's just like I don't know. It's weird to. I mean, if you're older, for sure, I get that. But like us, we're young and like we can't. What are we just gonna stay home for 8 months? Like we gotta work, we gotta make a living, we gotta pay for our.
This is why Florida is spiking because of people like us.
Yeah, but I mean, we didn't have to go to Disney
or Islands of Adventure or Universal Studios.
Maybe it's just us being a little bit naive. Or, I don't know. But in all honesty, if you look at the percentage and the numbers of people our age, and we're pretty healthy people. We don't have any pre-existing conditions. The percentages of people actually having COVID and it being a very serious thing is very, 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 very low. So my dad actually had COVID, but I haven't seen them in a while until that point, until he got it better afterwards. So but he was fine. My dad my dad tested positive, but my mom didn't. Nobody else in my family did. So who knows?
But still very excited. If you guys are gonna go turn out, we are gonna have some cool animals as always available. Some of the new stuff we're actually gonna have like some cool snakes out there, boas, ball pythons.
Out of all the things, You're gonna
that's
say
new.
snakes first?
'Cause
How about
that's
the blue tongue
new.
skinks, the lily whites, the Deadpool
Yeah, but
babies?
that's we gotta have that. We gotta have. That's the bread and butter. Crested geckos, gargoyles. We're gonna have a bunch of lychees.
We're gonna take a pastel ball python.
Hey. There's a special ball python that's gonna make it that you'll see.
A leucistic.
No, more special.
Whatever. We'll see.
But you know, obviously we're gonna have the best lily whites out there. We're
Yeah,
gonna have the
100%.
best blue tongue
There's
skinks.
no argument against that.
We have a lot of lychianas too. A lot of giant
we're gonna have
geckos.
a lot of baby lychees.
So some pure locales, some mixed locales, some high color, you know, mixes. A lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Gargoyles, obviously. Come on, Deadpool. Hello.
Yeah, where I've literally held back some stuff because I'm like, everything I've been posting on the website has been selling, so I'm like, you know what, this Daytona has to be a little bit more special. Gotta cheer up people a little bit more since we're going through this whole pandemic. So I'm gonna hold back some Deadpool babies to only offer them at Daytona. And if you're going to Daytona, then you will get to see them and maybe buy one if you like them. Yeah, so that's what we're up to. We're getting ready. The reptile show is, so today's Friday. It would be next weekend. So by this time next weekend, we'll be driving up probably.
Yeah.
Or we'll probably already be there. And we're excited, man. This is our biggest show of the year. And, you know, we had to do it obviously because it is Daytona and we ain't gonna let this freaking pandemic
And
stop
like
us.
these shows, it's a lot. Like I love these shows because we do get to see our friends that we've built, you know, good relationships with in the past years doing these shows. And sometimes, like Daytona's the best one because everybody's there. Everybody's at the same hotel that's right next door.
It's fun.
Like we all get together.
We can all have COVID parties.
Yeah, get COVID parties, drink together. We all have fun. We all have a good time. Like everybody is there. So it's so nice. And like I said, most of us are in the same exact hotel.
Yeah, and then, dude, now that I think about it, I'm like, they had to, Tinley, they had to reschedule, and then they canceled that show that they rescheduled, and now they're saying October, but who knows if even October they're gonna be able
Especially
to do it.
Chicago.
'Cause I think
Downtown had a lot of
Chicago's
issues.
pretty bad, right?
Yeah, they had a lot of issues.
Is it worse in South Florida?
I don't know about
Florida?
that, but Daytona's not South Florida. Daytona's Central. So
Might as well be Georgia.
yeah, for real. So you know, we have to do the show. It's like I said, that's honestly, the show is great, but my favorite part is being able to hang out with everybody that you don't see very often, that might not even live around us, and we get to hang out with everybody all at the same time.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yeah. Besides that, what else is new around us in our parts?
What is new?
Well, we've gotten a couple new animals.
That's because we're addicts.
The business is expanding too,
Yeah.
so we're working with a lot of new stuff. Like we got the pink tongue skinks.
Yeah, that's something I've wanted for a very long time. It might
Yeah.
not seem like a super rare. It's not a super rare animal.
They're not rare, but they're hard to find.
But they're not common
Like,
either,
Nobody
yeah.
really ever has them.
Yeah.
Like before we offered them for sale and we gave some to like our friends. Like who the hell else had some? Like I
you
haven't
would see
seen them in a
babies
while.
every now and then, but
they're
mainly
gone
from
like that.
mainly from
And,
very specific breeders.
Yeah, like they're gone. They're like they post them in fauna.
Yeah,
and they're
Facebook
gone.
and boom, gone.
Yeah.
So they're not very common, but they're not considered rare either. But it's a very cool species, very
Yeah.
easy lizard to work with. You can actually house them in groups, which is nice.
Yeah.
You know, compared to the northerns that, like, if they whiff each other, they want to kill each other.
And Philippe de Vosjoli would actually house pink tongue skinks together with crested geckos and other New Caledonian geckos. Like way back in the day, I remember reading about this in his books, in his early books. Of course, you say that now and people go haywire, but you could house them together with some of the New Caledonian geckos, like a crested gecko or gargoyle gecko. You know, obviously you want to make sure that they're both adults and that there's a big enough space in the enclosure to kind of like where they could get away from each other or where they could thermoregulate, because the pink tongues, you know, they require a little hot spot. So you for sure want the rest of the enclosure to be a little cooler so the geckos could find,
Yeah,
find their way
exactly.
out of the hot
If you
heat.
put like a like a decent hot spot. Like the pink tongues don't like it that hot. I give them a hot spot of about 95 degrees. That's a very small spot.
Yeah.
That has
like
that. Everything else is a lot cooler.
So so that's a good point. It's a very small spot because the bulb wattage is only 25 watt, but what we do is we put the branches really close to it, so it reaches that, so it's really close to the bulb, so it's really hot. But if you get a lot bigger bulb or wattage, that heat will travel,
it'll make it a bigger
down.
surface area of heat.
Bigger surface area, and will travel down a lot. But by keeping the bulb a little bit smaller and just having a perch closer to the bulb, you'll get a really hot spot too, but it won't get the whole cage hot.
Yeah.
So, because the pink tongues also like it cool. Like they will also retreat into the cooler side, and they go back and forth.
Yeah, and the reason that he was able to keep them together, Philippe, is because they do kind of have similar requirements. Arboreal, humidity-wise is about the same. They don't like it soaking wet, but they do need dry periods as well. Pink tongues will eat anything they can. They're omnivores, so they're gonna eat. They can eat the dog food, the cat food. They'll eat crested gecko diet.
So as babies, from my understanding, we've never bred them, but from my understanding, babies can be a little bit picky to get to start eating.
Yeah.
But once they're adults and they're established, they're piggies. Like, they don't eat anything. Like, we'll see them grubbing on that, like the mix you make all the time.
Yeah, they'll eat any of the Rapashi products. I mix, dog food, cat food. They'll eat anything I really put in there. Yes, babies are hard to kind of get eating. They're very small and fragile animals when they're very young, but once usually they hit a month old, they're solid. It's just in the beginning, and a lot of people actually like to give them like baby food when they're young. Baby food, cat food. Something that's like high in protein, that's kind of wet, it's easy for them to eat, because these guys are small animals. So
they're not like fast, they're like very slow, like kind of like very docile creatures by nature. They're not like skittish or anything, and you can even see even in the way they eat, they're not
super
aggressive slow. They're like super slow. Makes me wonder how some of these things survive in the wild.
I know, there must be no natural predators. I feel like that for crested geckos, for ball pythons.
But I feel like even a crested gecko can be quick at times.
Yeah, that pink tongue is slow.
A pink tongue is like always slow, at least from what I've seen.
It's like kind of like the Cuban Falls chameleons.
Yeah.
Where those things, there's got to be no predators around there.
Cuban Falls
they eat snails. That's how slow they are.
Yeah, for real.
So pink tongues, same thing in the wild. They eat a lot of snails, just like blue tongues.
You'd surprised. A lot of lizards eat a lot of snails.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It's an easy prey item.
Yeah, and a lot of meat too.
Yeah, you just gotta have like the jaws to crush it, I guess.
And skinks do. Skinks have that jaw. I'd be sure Abronias can knock out small snail species, because they have some nice crushers on them too.
I know they've been seen. Abronia graminea have been seen eating like little beetles, which have a hard exoskeleton. Beetles and little spiders and things like that, and that's probably why the variety of insects that they get in the wild. That's probably why those Abronias, when they're in the wild, they're green, and then you see some of them turn blue in captivity, because a lot of people keep them outside and they still turn blue. We've kept ours outside for periods of time. We've tried. I mean, we mostly.
It's funny, like you always see people like, oh, it's blue, it's sick, it's deficient. Like no.
It's not. It's just different.
Yeah, and we noticed that in some other animals as well that are in fact they're also green, like the keel-bellied lizards. Yeah. A lot of those in the wild do kind of fade, in the captivity do fade kind of bluish.
And green tree monitors.
And I think it's a diet thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a diet thing.
Obviously,
even with chameleons, like you see a wild caught panther, you'll see the mouth on that thing is bright yellow. But a captive bred panther chameleon adult, the mouth is nowhere near that color. Doesn't mean the animal's not as healthy. In fact, a lot of chameleons in captivity live a lot longer, but they're just getting something in their diet that is alternate, like it's changing the color, their pigmentation, the color, and that it might just be the carotenoids. How do you say that? Carotenoids, and you could get a lot of that through the Rapashi super pig.
Yeah. And I've actually noticed feeding more of that or dusting the crickets more with that for the abronias has helped them keep their color a lot better as well.
Yeah. So if you don't know, so Repashy Super Pig, what we're talking about is a supplement that Repashy makes, and it's basically just a bunch of carotenoids that you could add into your you dust them on the insects, but you're not supposed to use that much. You can put it in the crested gecko diet if you're mixing it up, or in your salads for your veggie eaters like your iguanas or redfoots or whatever. And it brings out the reds, the oranges, the reds. I said reds twice.
Yeah, you did.
The yellows, in the pigmentation a lot more than if you were just feeding a regular diet without it.
Yeah, and that's something we've been using a lot of the past year, because it also has some really good trace elements as well. Something you don't really, not just a carotenoid.
Of course.
Some trace elements that we don't.
And you gotta think, our staple for insects, for lizard eating insects in captivity are crickets. They're not the best feeder insect nutritionally, because they're very easy to reproduce, and that's why they're so popular, and they're something that a lot of lizards go for. But in terms of like nutritionally speaking, they're not the best. So we gotta kind of make it up.
And not just that, it's not as variable as they're in the wild. Animals are eating grasshoppers, beetles, arachnids, moths, butterflies, whatever you name it, bees,
whatever.
Like for example, something in particular with Jackson's chameleons. It's really, and this is a trick I learned from listening to podcasts. It's gonna merge right here, so don't kill me. Off a Little Bites truck. Just crash into it, just grab all the snacks and go. So listening to a guy named Peter Neckos talk, which is considered like the grandfather of chameleons, because he's just been obsessed with chameleons his entire life. But Jackson's chameleons, they eat a lot of flying insects in particular, and a lot of these flying insects have bee pollen on them, because they're pollinators. They're gonna fly on these plants, on these flowers, and they're gonna have some bee pollen on their skin when they get eaten.
Is it skin?
On their whatever it's called, on their ectoskeleton. And you see it actually benefits the animal a lot when you do dust bee pollen on the bugs, because it is something that they do get in the wild. So that's what I mean with the diversity, and the nature's just, it's hard to replicate, honestly, in captivity.
Yeah. But these are some things you could do. You can dust with your calcium plus, dust with your Super Pig, dust with bee pollen every now and then. Just switch it up. Even maybe switch up the brands of calciums or vitamin powders, and switch up the insects. That's why we always stress in our videos, variety is key. So you give them superworms, give them roaches, give them hornworms, give them crickets, give them as much variety as you can, depending on the area that you live in. But yeah, that's always key. That's important with any animal. That's important with our diets. Any living thing is gonna benefit from a good amount of variety.
That's why I also think it's very important to know where your animal comes from, what region, so you can understand. Okay, these are the bugs that are common over here. This is what it's eating. That's how you figure out. Oh, it's eating a lot of flying bugs, and a lot of the flying bugs do carry pollen on them. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and on that note, if you have chameleons, a really good podcast for chameleons is the Chameleons Academy podcast. It used to be called Chameleon Breeders Podcast with Bill Strand. That's an incredible podcast, very informative. If you're looking for information on how to care for your chameleons, or just overall nuisance, like so much detailed information. Yeah,
check out that's one of the best reptile podcasts I've heard, and very informational. That's actually where I learned about the bee pollen thing. Yeah. And on listening to Bill Strand's podcast with Peter Neckos.
Shout out to Bill Strand.
Yeah, super cool guy. Glad we actually got to meet him when we were out in California.
Yeah, we met him at the Super Show.
Yeah, the Reptile Super Show.
Right before the pandemic.
January, right before everything shut down.
Crazy.
And then another thing I learned on there about chameleons, which I didn't really know, is
the misting at night thing.
Misting at night, and you can see the difference in these chameleons when you're misting at night.
Yeah.
In the wild, he mentions that, he never really. Peter Neckos, I think, was talking about this because he does tours in Madagascar all the time, so he's always out there.
That's his fault.
That is his fault, but
And he even has a bump on his bumper. Like
that's
somebody
from doing
already
that.
crashed him.
From doing
Literally
that.
on
Yeah.
this side of the freaking. Go, man, go. You can go. I'm letting him go, but it's pissing me off.
So a lot of the rains do come in the afternoon and at nighttime. So he's like, I've never, all my years going out, I've never seen a chameleon drink off a leaf like you do see them in captivity.
Yeah.
Why is that? They're most of them are probably dehydrated in captivity because they're used to they're from a rainforest, so it's raining a lot, and even if when it's not raining, it's super humid, misty, super humid, and all that leaf buildup. It rains a lot at night. There's a ton of mist at night, especially fog and mist because it is a lot cooler as well. So it's like there's a lot of humidity, a lot of water available, a lot of buildup of dew on the leaves in the morning. So it's like these chameleons are just super hydrated.
Yeah, like you're saying, like when it's blazing hot outside and they're basking, it's not in the wild. It's not raining at that time. It's raining, at night or when it's actually a little bit colder. So that probably helps them hydrate a little bit better.
Exactly. So. That's another thing they mentioned. Like it's like, we've been doing this wrong the whole time.
Yeah.
We have this hot spot on there all day, 24.
There's some like.
Are they? We have this hot spot on all 12 hours a day, and then we mist on top when it's hot. When have you ever noticed it's blazing hot and it rains? Never. The storm comes in, blocks the sun, everything cools down, and then it rains.
Yeah.
And then the rains cool everything down even more.
Yeah. And that's something that not just chameleons, but you could take that
for every rainforest creature.
Theory, you can take it to any lizard that's montane or that's from a rainforest. When they're basking, cool. I mean, you can still mist it during the day and stuff, but misting at night, it just helps them hydrate a lot more for some reason.
Yeah, and like I was saying, you notice it with the animals. Like wild-caught chameleons can be a pain sometimes, but when you're doing it right, it's you put yourself at a lot better odds to making sure that animal thrives. And my misting systems that I set up outdoors goes off twice at night and twice during the day. Because one, it does get very hot in Florida, so I do still want it to kind of help cool it down.
Yeah, and there is some thermal there is some thermal gradients in the enclosure itself, but at the end of the day, there's only so much where the chameleon can go, so you still want to give it some misting and some water. And maybe they'd be fine without it, but that's how we've always done it, and that's how we've had success. But you want to give them some water options during the day, and obviously some thermal gradients if they're especially outside in Florida, or even if you just have it indoors with a basking bulb on it, because it's not like in the wild, it's not like they're just hot all day, or they go through seasons, they go through a lot of changes in the weather.
Yeah, especially rainforest animals, in these dense rainforests, a lot of these guys aren't even getting direct sunlight at any point ever, because the rainforest is so thick and dense that a lot of the light's not making it through, or direct sunlight at least. So it's another thing, to keep in mind. So that's why it's very important to know where your animal comes from, the environment, and all, everything. And now that'll just help you become a better keeper at the end, and breeder at the end of the day, whichever you prefer, because that's when you have the best success, I think, is when you do replicate nature at its best.
Yeah, and lately I've been getting a lot of questions on Instagram, and you want to switch hands?
Yeah. His hand's like numb.
Yeah.
Right.
So here.
I just got back. I think you're very good.
Alright. Lately I've been getting a lot of questions like up and coming breeders and stuff asking me just to give them advice or something, and that's a good point. Like, you want to know the first thing when you're starting to work with animals, especially before you get into a lot of animals, just have your animals down to a T. Like, learn your animals well, try to keep them as best as you possibly can, and at the same time keep them as economically efficient as you possibly can, because they are your pets and they are living things, but at the same time you are running a business. So there are things that you could do that the animal's not necessarily going to care for. Like, for example, a crested gecko, it's not going to care if it has real plants or fake plants, but the shading, the climbing, the visual barriers that the plants give is what the gecko cares about. So you got to use that, like understanding the animal to your advantage and knowing where you can cut corners and where you can't. And once you have that down, when you've learned your animal to a T, then you can start thinking about, okay, now let me expand a little bit more. But I see too many people all the time get way too many animals because they've kept one crested gecko before, and they're like, oh, this is awesome. I see you guys making a living. I see you guys making money from this, so I want to do it. And they invest a whole bunch of money. Guys, remember, we started with our pets first. We grew our collection slowly but surely, and even now we could be a lot bigger than what we actually than what we are now. But we have to take it step by step, because it's not like dry good products that we're working with. It's actual live animals. So it happens all the time. When we get a little bit too many animals, then you see oh shit, now it's a little bit harder to keep control of everything, and sometimes you slack off a little bit on this one. So you got to keep yourself in check and got to keep yourself honest and remember why you're doing this in the first place. But aside from that, another really good important point that I've been learning more and more recently about is just your financing. Keeping your financing, the animal stuff you're gonna learn on the job, but the financing, the economics of it, and the marketing and stuff like that, that's what you really should study if you're gonna go to college, or if you don't even have to go to college. I didn't really go to college for that, but you gotta do your research on the side, and it's the most boring and most annoying part for me, but it's one of the most important parts if you want to have a fruitful business. Anything you want to say about that?
Those are 5 helpful tips.
5 helpful tips to grow your reptile business.
No, yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. I think all those things are very important. And try not to overwhelm yourself. Like he said, we've sometimes got too many animals of a certain species that we could
get a little bit confident. We've kept hundreds of
the perfect
species.
example, I think, is the fat tail geckos.
Yeah,
we should have produced way more than we did this year,
yeah.
But kind of overwhelmed ourselves with, and now we have help, but in the beginning we were still kind of doing this ourselves. We could have and should have produced a lot more animals, but
and that's a perfect example, because that's a species that I know how to care for, but I didn't engulf myself in it to the point of I know how to exactly when the best time to pair these guys up. I know when the best time when they're gonna be laying on this. I kind of I've had worked with so many different geckos and stuff that fat tail geckos was I know how to keep them. I've kept them before, and so I'm just gonna get a bunch of breeding groups, and then the breeding is not optimum. The geckos are healthy and fine, but you don't.
We had a lot of.
You invest so much money in something, and then it's damn, it's not turning out how it is, because you didn't do your due diligence in the early steps of the process. But it happens, and you learn, and then you move forward.
Exactly. How many people have we seen just from one day to another get 1,000 crested geckos, and then they're I'm gonna take over the crested gecko world?
Yeah, I literally have people come up to our tables at reptile shows, buy a bunch of crested geckos. 2 years later, they have a table at the Repticon show. Then 2 more years later, they're
selling
they're burnt out. Yeah. They're this is too much work. It's not what we expected. Da da da. It's yeah, man. I mean, you can't go into it thinking about the money first, because definitely not the best thing you can do for money.
Yeah, definitely not. There's probably every other way to make money is probably easier than live animals.
Yeah.
But whoops, that didn't happen.
Yeah, but it's still the end of the day, you do what you want to do. You do what makes you happy, or you should.
Yeah,
You should
because it makes
try.
it much easier.
And another thing, like, because people ask me all the time again, it's like, sometimes you don't know if you could do something, but if you just try and you just do it and you just show up, you might surprise yourself. Like, man, I don't know if I could, like, breed these geckos, this crazy species of geckos. I don't know if I could breed them, but let me just get a male and a female. Let me just try it out. Let me just learn how to keep them, and then you put them together. Oh crap, I got babies. Next thing you know, oh, I just hatched my first. And then at first you thought, oh, I don't think I could do this, but at least you tried. And just by showing up and doing what you're supposed to, things will work themselves out, you know. So that's like probably one of the biggest pieces of advice, because a lot of people, they don't think they can, and then they just stop right there. Like, I don't think I can, but I'm still gonna try, you know.
Yeah. No, it's very, I think we talked about that earlier today on the way to Crutchfield.
Yeah.
You know, you just gotta, how does like David Goggins say it? Because I feel like he always says stuff like that, like, or Joe Rogan's like, you just gotta, you know, keep going, man. Keep with it. Keep putting in the work.
Exactly. You just gotta, and it's so, like,
it sounds so simple.
It is. It's simple. Because it really is simple. The idea of it. It's hard to have the consistency, but it's literally that's what you just gotta do. And then before you know it, things will start like working themselves out. Like this, we've been at this for a long time. At least for like, in terms of our lives, like we've done this for like 10 years or more. At least I have, and it's like,
doesn't feel like it.
No, it definitely doesn't. But when you look back, it's like, damn, I put like, think about how many businesses you start, and you're like, all right, in 10 years, I'm gonna be making a living out of this. Like, you're not like, oh yeah, 2 years. No, like in 10 years. And maybe it didn't. Maybe it took me 8 years or whatever. But, and of course, I wasn't always doing it full time. But like, it's like, fuck, it takes a long time, dude. Sometimes it's worth it.
Yeah, especially that's why we say, you know, try to do something you love, because when you love, you're willing to put in that willing to put in that work. You're willing to put in that time, you know.
Yeah,
like for a long time, both of us had a job and doing this. It's a lot of work
for most of the time.
Yeah, but that's a lot of work, doing a full-time job and then also trying to keep up with all these animals and everything. Like, it's hard, but you know, at the end of the day, it's worth it. For us, it was worth it, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
Now we can do this independently, which is really nice. So now we 100% focus on our own animals, on our own shit.
Yeah, and that's like, dude, sometimes people like message me and like I remember this kid, this dad was wanting me to talk to his kid about it, it was like a couple months ago. But it's like, damn, like there's actually people out there that like look up to us and see this, like, oh, like this is actually a thing you could do. Like, you could actually make a living making reptiles. And I didn't know that. And that's why I'm doing this now, because I didn't know that until I saw other people doing it. And I'm like, oh, so you could do this. It's like, this is actually a thing. Like, you can make a living, you can sustain a family from it. And then that's what like gave me the extra push to actually do it. So by us telling people that they could actually do it, it's an option. Like, it's a possible thing. You just gotta try hard. You could do it, man. That's it. I remember going to the reptile shows and thinking like, because we would do reptile shows sometimes, and I would do reptile shows, and it would be
at one table.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, like we made some money, but you know, this ain't paying the bills. No. Like,
let alone for more than one person.
I used to think like all these people, like, you know, and a lot of them don't do this full time, but I used to think like, oh, these people like just do this on the weekends, and like they have their other jobs, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I'll just keep pets if that's the case, you know.
Yeah.
But when I found out, like, no, like you can make a living and like make money to sustain your family with it, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do, you know. And that's with anything, like any business, especially nowadays with the internet.
So if you know, just keep pushing, guys. Just keep going.
Yeah, and I know especially during like these, during the pandemic, like we were like I was last night at Danny's house. The other couple that was there, they're like out of job. They don't have a job right now, and it's hard. Like, yo, bills have to be paid, and you gotta buy groceries. It's like you gotta try to figure out what you could do. Maybe now is the time where you take a little bit of a risk, you know, with some money that you have saved up, or maybe don't. I don't know, but this is what I would do. I would, especially now you have a lot of free time. Instead of watching Hamilton, go and like research about a product, or do something that you like, put it on Amazon,
or like you're saying, marketing, or anything, you know,
like those are valuable skills. That the skills I've learned doing TikisGeckos, I can stop doing TikisGeckos and I can do another business and they will transfer over. So they're skills that you're gonna need, or that you're gonna be able to use in other types of businesses and work. So I definitely think it's a good time for people to start doing that, even if it's for some side cash. Like I got some friends that just sell some stuff on eBay here and there, and it just helps pay the bills, and it just makes your life a little bit easier and a little more enjoyable. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna end it on that note, guys. We just pulled up. Now it's time to take care of these animals. Yep. Thanks for listening as always. We love you guys. We hope to, you know, keep producing more of these, which we will, especially when we do road shows. That's when we're driving for like 10+ hours. So we will. And if there's anything you guys, you know, want us to talk about, any, you know, we're gonna try to make these videos, you know, as informative and podcasts as informative as possible. So if there's anything you guys wanna, you know, us to talk about, just let us know. Anything you gotta say?
Yeah, follow USARK Florida. Make sure you follow them on Instagram, on Facebook. Go on their website, subscribe to their email newsletter, even more so than you do with us. Like, these people are the ones who are helping us try to keep our animals here in Florida. I can't stress it enough. They already taken away iguanas and tegus from us, or from future generations, not from us, because they ain't taking it away. Anyways, so support them. Make sure you support them. Please donate to them. I mean, this is not a thing that I'm like, yeah, give them money, because like they don't even take a profit out of this. They don't even pay. The people who run this thing, I know personally, and they don't get any money from this. They use all the money to pay the lawyers to fight for our laws here in Florida. And then USARK, of course, does the rest of the country, but USARK Florida, especially right now, we need a lot of help. We need a lot of backing, because we are going to fight a very lengthy battle. If you don't have money to donate, I understand it's a tough time right now. But if there's a skill that you have, if there's, you know, some sort of, if you can know how to market, if you're a lawyer, if you're any skill or trait or trait that you have that can help us fight this, please, I encourage you to go to their website or to their Facebook page or Instagram page, send them a message, let them know that how you could help, and let's make sure we keep these animals and we are able to breed them and have them as pets like we've always wanted to. And then follow us on everything and all the social media and stuff.
All right, guys.
All right, peace.
Stay safe out there. Peace and love.